Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, my little corner of the internet. Do you like my background today? It's very fancy for me. I don't know. It's very colorful. It feels very weird. I usually, am very not so colorful. I even have black. Speaking of, check out the fit, yo. This shirt is so cute. It's like I'm like, as the kids say, I'm living for it. But anyways, today I wanted to come on here and talk about this Jazz Jennings thing that has been going around. Before I didn't really know that much about it, but I went and I watched a few videos, and I do have my take on it. I feel like it's not going to be too different from everybody else's takes, because there's been a few content creators who have made videos on this before, but I thought that maybe I might bring a little bit of a unique insight to it, since I am a detransitioner myself. If you don't know me, my name is Ryan Barnes. I have detransitioned. I was trans on hormones and everything for like about a year and a half, and have been detransitioned for a few years now. And I get on here and I bother you guys with my opinions that you didn't ask for. But yes, anyways, before I get into that, though, I kind of wanted to come on here and talk about something. And it's not something that I haven't necessarily talked about before. I mentioned it in a few videos ago that I did. I mentioned, oh gosh, I think it was on my alternate channel. It was, the monologue is what it's called over there. I just kind of go on there and I talk about stuff for a while. Kind of unedited, stuff like that. Sorry, I'm kind of stuffy today. My allergies have been going nuts. But, yeah, I went on and just kind of talked about all the other stuff that I hadn't really mentioned before about, like, detransitioning and some of the negatives, I guess. Like, more of my regrets. And one thing that I mentioned in that video was my voice and how I have not really been as satisfied with it as I had previously let on. And some of you guys had some things to say, and it made me think about a few things. Because, for some background, when I first detransitioned, I made a video on the internet, and it went, I won't say it went viral, but it got a few million views. And a few of the other videos I did made a few million views too. I did a video where I was singing Your Man by Josh Turner in my car. It was just recording from my phone. And all of those videos were about learning to love yourself the way that you are. And I was trying to really push, just being happy with what you have, trying to find the love in things that you don't necessarily like too much about yourself. And one of those things that I was trying to push was about my voice, because it was a bit of an adjustment mentally, I guess I would say. Learning to live with what I had messed up about myself, I guess I would say, since I transitioned. Everything else went back to normal except my voice. And I had always preached, I guess, learning to, accept it and find the positives and things that you don't like. And I was always trying so hard to be the positive force, the positive energy about things like that, where you might not necessarily like something about yourself. And I kind of tried to almost gaslight myself into believing that I was okay with how I sounded. Fuck the haters, love yourself, all that stuff. And I talked about it in my not most recent, but one of my recent videos on my alternate channel. Like I said, newsflash, I lied. My voice is something that I have struggled with ever since I've detransitioned, and it's been a few years now. And for a while, I kind of just it's almost like I got used to it, and I just accepted the fact that, yes, it's something that I hate about myself, but it's not something I can ever change. And then I made a video about that, and I stated, like, I have all these issues with it. I'm constantly getting misgendered by, like, coworkers. It's like, it affects me in my day-to-day life. Like, I always have issues somewhere. Anytime I go on to Twitch and stream, there's always somebody that's be like, you're a tranny, you're trans. And they always give me some sort of shit about it, because they see me and then they hear my voice and they think that I'm either a cross-dresser or a transgender. And it happens with my coworkers at work too, and IRL in my daily life. It happens with just random everywhere that I go. Just to kind of give you an example, it's happened so frequently over the years that I just expect it now. It's something where I'll go to talk to someone, and no matter how feminine I look, I know that the second I open my mouth, I get the look first. It's like you talk to them, and then their eyes widen a little bit. They're like, oh, because they don't expect this to come out of this. And then they give me the look. And if you're trans, like a trans woman or a trans man, you're probably familiar with this, the look of, oh, you're one of them. And I'm not justifying that at all. I think it's fucked up, but it's just even more painful, I guess. Getting the look, oh, you're trans. Gotcha. What do you need? Like, it's even more painful getting that look when I'm not even trans. Like, I'm not. I switched back. I did everything I was supposed to, and yet I still will always and forever encounter issues with this just everywhere I go. And it's just, I really tried to accept it, and over time, it's just gotten worse and worse. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it's something that I've come to believe that I don't want to have to accept it anymore. I don't want to just accept it. So in that video, I mean, and just because I don't want to accept it doesn't mean that I will have to, because it's a part of me. But I mentioned that, yes, it's something that I hate about myself. It causes me a lot of issues everywhere I go. And yes, I wish I could change it. There is a surgery out there that I could get. It's called vocal feminization surgery. But it would cost me a lot of money that I am no way, shape, or form going to be saving up for myself. It would take me it would take me probably over 5 years or longer to save up for that, because not only that, I'm going to be going back to college, and that's going to cost a lot of money. So there's going to be student debt and then just bills and everything. So it's like, yeah, I said in the video, it's like, yeah, that's something that I could do, but the odds of me doing that are highly, highly unlikely because it's expensive and I can't afford it. And a lot of you guys had commented, and it's not really something that I had thought about, but a lot of you told me to do like a GoFundMe or something to kind of like fundraise to afford the surgery if it's something I really wanted. And I guess my toxic trait immediately kicked in, and some of you can probably relate to this, to where I was immediately like, ask for help? Hell no. And I kind of just was like, no, I can't do that. I can't, right? It's like, I can't do like something like that, like a GoFundMe, for just like a surgery or like a medical expense. But I mean, it's happened ever since I posted that video. I've gotten more and more and more and more and more comments telling me, it's like, why don't you just do a GoFundMe? Just do a GoFundMe. It's like, people will help you if you just ask for it. Just why don't you do that? And I was trying to, be like, well, because I shouldn't. Like some of you probably understand like the hesitation to ask for help, especially in that way. And then I kind of talked to some friends about it, some like IRL friends and a lot of you guys, and you kind of just put some things in perspective for me. And you said, well, the only person really that you're affecting negatively by not asking for help is yourself. Like, the only person you're sabotaging is you. Even if it's only like a little bit that you get, that's still a little bit that you don't have to pay for. So why are you sabotaging yourself? And I didn't have an answer. It's just a toxic trait. I just have a really, really hard time asking for help. So I kind of just decided to pull my head out of my ass and listen to what a lot of you guys are saying, especially a lot of IRL people and friends that I'm in constant contact with. And so I'm doing a GoFundMe. As much as I am reluctant to ask for help, I need to get over myself. So yeah, that's something that I'm doing. Again, I don't expect anything to really come out of it, but at least I can say that I got over myself and I did it, right? So I mean, if you feel like throwing $1 my way, it would be greatly appreciated. But eventually, it'll probably take me a long time, but I am gonna try to save up to get that surgery, because I just want to sound like me again, and I don't want to have to keep dealing with these issues for the rest of my life. And it's really exhausting. So regardless of how long it takes, I am going to save up, and I am going to get this surgery because I need it at this point. Like, it's affecting my mental so much. Every single time I stream, every single time I leave the house, I either get a comment or a look or treated differently. And yes, it's fucked up, and it shouldn't happen to anyone, straight, cis, trans, anybody, right? Everybody should be treated equally. But there is something out there that can make my situation better, so I am going to try and take it. If that makes, I guess, a bit of sense to you guys. Once again, regardless of the GoFundMe or my voice or anything, I appreciate you guys. You guys have stuck with me through a lot of my back and forth YouTube journeys and shit, and everything else that I've done. The name changes, the content changes, the leave of absences, which I've also gone on, but it's because my hours changed at work. I'm working at 4 a.m. now, and it's exhausting. But yes, anyway, I appreciate you guys. So with that being said, and with that out of the way, let's get into this Jazz Jennings situation, which I feel like is a good next segment, because a lot of the stuff I have to say about that is a bit related. So yes, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to play a clip for you guys with this whole Jazz Jennings thing. It came from, I believe, her little TV show, I Am Jazz. And it's kind of gone viral. Like I said, a lot of people have been reacting to it and commenting on it, and I feel like my consensus will be close to what everybody else is saying too, but I also have some other words to say. So I'm just gonna sit here and let this play for you here.
So, are you feeling like you wanted to start talking about... Are you okay?
I'm okay.
I'm like, I'm gonna cry. But
You know I can't get out of my head.
I know. Listen.
It just doesn't stop.
It's okay. Give me a hug. It's okay. I know what you're going through. We've been there before.
No, it still doesn't stop now, and I'm already going back to negative.
But the more you're talking about yourself, it gets harder. You're digging in, and it's making you put a magnifying glass on what's already difficult as it is. So this is hard for you, I know, and we don't want to push you
I
anymore.
know I'm the one doing it. Like,
I know, you're your own worst enemy.
I feel kind of all over the place, and like my mind is very cluttered and not clear. And I really want to have that clarity. I really want to understand myself and be able to read my own soul and what I want. And it's just very challenging. And I think I'm kind of breaking down a little bit and spiraling into negativity. I just want to feel like myself. Like, that's
Right.
it. I don't
Like
care.
the old Jazz?
All I want is to be happy and feel like me, and I don't feel like
What
me
is me?
ever.
Okay, so the biggest thing that I want to touch on is probably what everybody else is like focusing on too, is that Jazz is like breaking down in tears. And for now, I'm going to refer to her as she, her, and Jazz, just because I don't know what's really going on, and nobody really knows what's really going on. Like, all we see is like what has been filmed and what is on camera. There might be a lot of other stuff that's going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. So for now, unless stated otherwise publicly, I'm just going to refer to Jazz as she, her. Some people are not anymore, but do as you will. But yes, so she's breaking down in tears, saying, I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like myself ever. I just want to be happy. And that's one, very fucked up. And first statement before we continue is like, it is very, very saddening, and it is horrible that she has to go through whatever she is going through right now. A lot of struggles like that, mental struggles, are very, very, very difficult, and I really feel for her. But something that's just kind of just really tugged at my soul a little bit when I was watching this clip is that the stuff that she was saying really reminded me of all the stuff that I was thinking when I was starting to detransition. And let me clarify, right? Because I was identified as a trans man for about 1.5 years. I was on hormones. I passed very well. My voice was very deep. Nobody really questioned me on it until I started, it just kind of came out of the blue one day, and it started as just little things, but gradually those little things, like little thoughts, that would get in the back of my head, they just got worse and worse and worse until it became at the forefront of every thought, every waking moment. I wake up and then I have this issue. I go to bed, I have this issue. And the issue is I don't feel right. Like, I was trans, and it's not that I wasn't happy. Well, I mean, I wasn't. But it's just, before, when I had transitioned in the early stages, it was all very euphoric, and it was kind of almost the honeymoon phase of being trans, where it's like, this new thing, I can be a new person, this is incredible, and it felt awesome. And I didn't have any issues at first because I was in kind of, like I said, in that like little honeymoon phase. And I feel like for everyone, the honeymoon phase lasts, it can be either short or it can be years, and it can be really long. But if you are not actually trans, like me, you made a mistake and you transitioned when you shouldn't have, once that honeymoon phase wears off, then you start to get those thoughts in the back of your head that says, and at first it just starts out as you see someone or something that reminds you of like being like who you used to be, like being a woman. If it's rather you did a lot of makeup when you were a woman, or you like to dress up a certain way, or whatever it is. But for me, it was seeing, because I worked at a Walgreens before when I was trans, when I was a trans man, and at first it was just nothing. But then over time, about a year and a half later, once my honeymoon phase wore off, I would start to see things that would remind me of things I used to do when I was a woman that I enjoyed. And when I was a woman, when I was trans, before I transitioned, I used to do a lot of makeup. I used to do different kind of looks. I used to cosplay all the time. And then I'd see like new makeup products released that I'd be like, for a split second in my head, I'd think, oh, I want to try that out. But it's like, oh, no, I'm a guy. And I'm not saying that men can't wear makeup, but in my head, I did not want to be a man who wore makeup. I just wanted to be a very masculine guy. And so it would just remind me of things that I missed as being a woman. And it started off very slow. And I was like, oh, that's normal. It's normal to have those thoughts. It's fine. That doesn't mean that I'm not trans. But it got worse and worse and worse until I started to actively miss being a woman. And that's when I kind of started to get a bit concerned, because it's like, okay, there are things that I actively miss, and actively missing those things is making me not want to be a man. Oh gosh, excuse me, more and more and more. And it got to the point where I was actively miserable. I didn't want to be a guy anymore, or I was like, well, do I want that or do I not want that? Because I made this decision and I transitioned and everything, and I've been on hormones, my name has changed, my hair is so short, I look like a man. It's like I'm so deep into being transgender that I was like, well, I can't possibly be wrong. There must be something wrong with me. I thought I was in my own head. I thought it was just negativity. I just needed to flush out of my system and just get over it, right? But it doesn't just happen. You don't just forget about it if you make the wrong decision, because those thoughts circle in your head. Then you feel like you're not yourself. There's something missing from you. They're like, it's almost like you're being smothered under like the covers of a blanket and you just can't breathe because you're just being suffocated by something that's not yourself. And at least that's how it felt for me. And there's a lot of the stuff that I heard her say towards the end of it, just like, I'm not happy, I don't feel like myself ever. That's a lot of the stuff that I felt when I was starting to detransition. And I can't even imagine, just if, right, I'm making assumptions here, obviously, but if that is the same thing is happening to Jazz, and she's realizing that maybe she doesn't want to be trans anymore, that would be horrible to go through, because my situation and hers is very, very different, and I'm not ignorant to that fact. I didn't have any surgeries. I went on hormones and I wore a binder, but that was the extent of it. Yeah, I passed very well. But aside from my voice, like I mentioned earlier, nothing that I had done was completely irreversible. But Jazz has went through multiple surgeries. She very clearly looks like a woman. And to think and just realize that maybe you don't want to be trans anymore, and maybe that was a mistake after you've gone so far into becoming the opposite gender with all of those surgeries, that would be a horrible, horrible realization. And it's even different, and I feel more complex in this situation with Jazz, because if she does realize that that was not right for her, I mean, what is she even supposed to feel? Like, it's not guilt. Because guess what? She didn't make that decision for herself. Her parents did. And this also is leading on something that I want to mention or something that I noticed her mother doing too, that I also want to talk about. But yeah, how do you even feel if you're transgender, but your parents transitioned you when you were a child, and then years later you say, I didn't want this. This is actually the wrong decision for me. Like, do you feel confusion, anger? Like, are you conflicted? Like, what are you supposed to... Like, that would be so confusing and such a difficult position to be in as Jazz, if that is something that's going on. Because, yeah, like, I don't know what I would do if I was trans and it was my parents' decision. And, like, because she didn't have a choice. And I know a lot of you will say, oh, but even though she was a child, she transitioned when she was 5 years old, okay? And her parents transitioned her. I don't care what you say. Children, 5-year-olds, cannot consent to something medically like that. They can't. I don't care what you have to say. If you are like 4, 5, 6 years old, those are children. And medically transitioning a child, if you are a parent, that is on you. That is your decision. You chose to transition that child, just like Jazz's parents chose to transition her off of what was it, her saying, I think, what was it, I saw an interview by Jazz's parents a long time ago where they were asking her, it's like, well, why did you decide to transition Jazz? And it was like, well, I knew instantly the second Jazz said to me, well, Mom, when's the fairy gonna come down and make my penis into a vagina? And that's what you decided instantaneously made your little boy a girl. Do you know the kind of cracked shit that children say all the time? Like, that is not weird. That's not abnormal. Because little children, the second they see something different from them, they're like, oh, I'm different. When am I gonna get that? But it's like, don't worry, you're not weird, you're not different, you're just boys and girls are different, you have different parts. Like, that's not the first time I've heard a child say that. Like, and that doesn't necessarily make them trans. So yeah, Jazz transitioning is 100% on her parents. And so that also leads me into something that her parents were saying too. Early on in the video, Jazz kept saying, I just don't feel like myself. And her mom was responding, and she was kind of interrupting her too. She was saying, I know, and then reinforcing the fact that Jazz was just being negative, that she's her own worst enemy. And it's like, everything that her mom was saying really gave me the vibes that she was kind of trying to suppress Jazz's feelings. Because Jazz was saying that it's just, it sucks, I don't feel right. And her mom was saying, I know. Bitch, no you don't. No you don't. You have no idea what she's going through. You are a cis woman who grew up as a cis woman. Jazz is biologically male, who the parent, mom, decided to transition at 5 years old, get multiple surgeries when she was a child, and basically raised her son to be a woman, and now Jazz is having issues. Mom, shut the fuck up. You have no idea what she's going through, and honestly, anything that she's going through is your fault. Let's just get that out of the way. But think about it like this. Even if Jazz's parents mean well, right? Even if they mean well and just want to support her, which I'm also kind of sus about, because wasn't there a quote that I was reading going around where Jazz said, I don't want to dilate? You know, dilating is something that you have to do when you get bottom surgery to maintain it and make sure that you heal correctly. I'm fairly certain. And I'm pretty sure there was a quote floating around the internet once upon a time where Jazz said, I don't want to dilate, and Mom said, you're going to dilate or I'm going to do it for you. For those of you who don't know, dilating is essentially shoving a medical dildo up your surgically created vagina to keep the hole open so it doesn't close, because it's technically an open wound. And Jazz didn't want to. She's like, I don't want to dilate, I don't want to do it. And then her mother said, you're going to dilate or I'm going to do it for you. Can you just imagine that situation? Like, your parent dilating for you? That's a horrifying thought, for one. And Jesus, I don't think I need to say anything more about that. But yeah, so not only that, but all of this really gives me the vibe that Jazz's mom, because she's mostly the one that I'm seeing in all of these clips, right? It's her mom in the interview, and her dad might be out there and I'm just not seeing it. But regardless, as a parent, Jazz's mom I would guess, is most likely terrified of the thought that Jazz doesn't want to be trans anymore. Because guess what happens if Jazz goes out and admits that she wants to detransition and that she never should have transitioned in the first place and it was the wrong decision for her. Imagine the backlash that mom would get, that knowing that she willingly transitioned and had medical, like, gender reaffirming surgeries on a child and it was the wrong decision. That would essentially mean that her mother had mutilated her son because she decided, and it was her decision, that she decided that her son was trans off of a comment that a 5-year-old made. Yeah. As a mom in that situation, I'm not surprised that she's trying to tone down Jazz. She's like, no. I get what you're going through. Don't think about it too much. You're fine. Okay, I get it. You're your own worst enemy. It's just negativity. It's all in your head. Like, she's trying, it sounds from this clip like her mom is trying so hard to get Jazz to just get those thoughts out of her head. She's like, no. You're trans. You're a woman. Get these thoughts out of your head. Okay, we're fine. Like, because imagine the backlash. Her mom would get destroyed on the internet if Jazz decides to detransition, because guess what? It's her fault. Jazz's mental state, if that's something that she decides to do, and if Jazz ends up detransitioning because she's not happy and she doesn't feel like herself, that is mom's fault. 100% mom's fault. Like, imagine having all of that happen to you. I don't even know how I would feel as a child. Like, imagine if as a child, having your parts removed like that in surgeries because you were essentially raised to be a trans woman by your parents because they had made those decisions essentially for you when you were a child before you could really consent to it. Like, I would be so unbelievably angry because those decisions were essentially, like, those parts were robbed from me. This entire situation is so messed up. And so, yes, I think that if Jazz really is having these kinds of issues and struggling with the thoughts of not feeling like herself and not really understanding why, and maybe thinking that maybe she's not trans, maybe being trans isn't the right decision for her, if that's something that's going on. Again, I've only seen a little bit of what's going on here. There's probably some more information that is either going to come out or stuff that I haven't seen yet. But just from this clip and some other ones that I've seen, if that's the case, that is so monumentally fucked up, and I feel very, very bad for Jazz, and I wish her all the best, and I just hope that she knows that no matter what decision that she makes, that she will always have support. And another thing, too, like, imagine trying to make that decision as such a huge member of the transgender community. I mean, Jazz is essentially the biggest, aside from Caitlyn Jenner, Jazz is one of the biggest, like, trans icons out there. And imagine being, like, even if she decided that she didn't want to be trans anymore, imagine the pressure that she would be under, like, thinking, oh my god, if I detransition, all of these people, these trans people that look up to me, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna turn on me. Like, imagine, like, the pressure and the fear that would come with being an icon in such a volatile community, mind you, because the trans and the LGBT community can be horrible. If they decide that they don't like you, hence the whole Harry Potter video game. I think that's a very good example of that. So I feel very bad for Jazz in the position that she's in, too, if she's having these kinds of issues, and I also think that her mom is not positively influencing her in this way at all either, because think about it, if Jazz is having these issues, mom doesn't want Jazz to detransition whatsoever, because that is going to be very, very, very bad for mom, too, because it is her fault. So, yeah, tough situation. I don't know. I just hope that regardless of all the pressure, regardless of how mom is probably trying to gaslight her into thinking that it's all in her head, and social pressure and pressure from friends and family, regardless, I hope that Jazz just does whatever is going to make her happy and say, fuck everybody else. Like, because regardless, you know, Jazz, and even if you're another trans person who's thinking about detransitioning or thinking maybe this wasn't the right decision for me, regardless, don't be afraid of detransitioning because, oh my god, I'm gonna lose my community, they're gonna hate me, nobody's gonna support me. No. What people don't realize is that, yeah, you might be afraid to detransition, but for every one person who's trans that will not support you, for detransitioning. There is going to be 2 more people who will support you for doing what you want and making you happy. And I'm not talking about transphobes. I'm just talking about regular people who want other people to be happy and make the right decisions for them. I'm talking about other detransitioners. People about in the LGBT community who are genuinely good people and just want you to be happy, right? There is a lot of support where people don't realize there is. So I hope that she is not afraid to just do whatever she wants that makes her happy, because that would be a lot of pressure to be under, and I feel like she probably has a lot of voices in her head, a lot of people in her ear telling her all sorts of different things, and yet no wonder that she's confused and her brain is jumbled, because good God, that's a very tough situation to be in, and I really, really feel bad for her. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of all I have to say on that. Yeah. So, man, I don't know. I'm just kind of stewing in all of this information, because that's, like I said, it went viral for a reason. But anyways, I guess we'll just stay tuned to see what else happens with that. If anything else happens with that. And regardless, I just hope that Jazz knows that no matter what she decides to do, she will be fine. Everything will be fine. Okay? If she wants to detransition, she's not too far gone. You're never too far gone. Do what you want. It'll be happy. If she wants to stay a woman, do what you want. It'll be fine. Just make yourself happy. That's all I have to say. As long as you are I believe that people should have the right to do what they want with their bodies, as long as you are a legal, consenting adult. That is my only thing. Legal, consenting adult. Because with that being said, and with those people, I believe that everyone has a right to their happiness, and they should fight tooth and nail to get it and not let anyone stand in their way. And that applies to you too, everybody out there. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that. I'm going to let you guys go now. Just to recap what I said earlier, yes, I do have a GoFundMe. The link, again, is in the description below. If you would like to send $1 my way, I appreciate you guys. You guys are incredible. I don't know. I just appreciate y'all. So anyways, you guys have a good night, day, whatever time it is for you where you live. And I will catch you guys later. So, goodbye.